And good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is our second installment of the Scituate Chamber's monthly Zoom video series. Tonight we welcome Paul Douglas from Paul Douglas Floral Designs. He's been an active member of Chamber for a very long time. We appreciate his patronage, and he often provides a lot of donations to various events around town, and some of those that we sponsor. So we thank him for that, his participation in the past. So tonight should be an interesting tour through Paul's shop, and he'll give us a live demo about how he makes those wonderful arrangements. I have no idea how y'all do that. It's very intriguing. So with that, I'll stop talking. We're going to hear a little bit from Paul and see a video, and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A and time to speak and network a little bit if you want at the end. But Paul, I'll turn the mic and the video camera over to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, Paul. Welcome, everybody. As Mark said, we're happy to have Paul here from Paul Douglas Florals. He's been with the Chamber for many years, a great supporter of all of our causes. And Paul, I'd like to know where you're located first.
We are located at 130 King Street on Route 3A, diagonally across from the Sunrise Nursing Facility.
So we took some time last week and we paid a visit on Paul. So we're going to take you on a little tour before we begin.
As you step in, we have a great collection of plant material. Succulents are very popular today. People enjoy those because they're easy to care for and they are kind of the trendy thing. We do a lot of different styles in terms of containers, and we can create anything that you need. And then we have, over here, we have gift items. A lot of our things are local artists. We have things made out of sea glass that have been created. We have button bouquets. One of my designers here, she does that on her own. We provide Luke Adams glassware and seashell styles and hearts and all kinds of other nice things. We also have local candles, soy. And then as we come down from here, we have a nautical section. We have a whole section of different things that are nautical. We have some people who create things, paint artists, who do very nice work. And we are a full-service florist. We do all types of different aspects, including weddings and functions. We have a large refrigerator full of many flowers. We also have a section back here which we sometimes call our flower bar when it's totally full, especially for like Mother's Day, and people can choose what different types of flowers they'd like. And these come in daily, if not, at least bi-daily, so that they're always fresh and good for the customers. These are a few other designs over here that we've created. And back here is where we create a lot of our designs. We have different vases to choose from. A lot of our customers choose things off of our website, and then we design them from there, which you can see many different selections. We also have a lot of ribbons over on the other side and many other flowers in this back refrigerator too to complement all the front refrigerator flowers. And that is what we do at Paul Douglas Floral Designs. Check us out on our website and also Instagram.
So Paul, could you tell us a little bit about how you, tell us your whole story.
Okay, well, we don't know if we have all night, so I'll give it a short version, hopefully. But actually, when I was 18 years old, I had a scholarship to go to Wentworth. I wanted to be an architect. My second choice was to be a landscape architect because plants have always been in our blood in my family. My aunt and uncle actually had a home on Free Street in Hingham, for some people that are familiar with it. There was a river there, and their entire yard was, people would come from everywhere to look at the flowers. So it goes back in our family, obviously. My parents were into gardening and flowers. And my sister started a flower shop the year that I was going to go to college. And of course, she said to me, well, why don't you come work for me? And being a youngster, I said to myself, oh, you're a kid and you don't really realize things, to full value of a scholarship. And I said, well, I'll go join my sister and help her out. And I thought it would be fun. But I did do that. And I worked for her for quite a few years until I moved on for a while. So that's how I started in the business. And I never really left it. I left for about 5 years and worked in management. But I realized after all this time, finally, now this is 2021, so it's been 7 years, going on 7 years this October. I finally realized that everything that I'd gathered through knowledge, through the other jobs I had and running other flower shops, that I could do it on my own. And I actually had left a job and I had no idea what I was going to do, honestly. It was the first job I had ever left. I have never left a job in my life. And I said, what am I going to do? And after 3 months, I said, I've got to do something. And people in my business said, well, you need to scour the South Shore. And there were certain places they were insisting I go to look. And I tried all those places. And I kept coming over to Scituate and Cohasset for some reason. And it was just calling to me to be back in this area. I couldn't understand it. And the doors just opened up. And when people say that, I really now believe it, because every door just opened and things just were so smoothly. I just couldn't believe how it was happening. And it was, next thing I had a flower shop and it was my own and I could do what I wanted to do and make it what I wanted it to be. So it has been a great experience. Everything that I gained from either the job has helped me to get to this point and be successful for 7 years. And I feel quite an accomplishment, including the amazing clients that I have. I can't even tell you. Everybody from Scituate to Cohasset, they are just amazing people. And maybe a little later down the road, I'll tell you a couple of stories about some wonderful clients that I have that just kind of blew me away a couple of times. But so that's kind of how I got started, Jean.
And Paul, your logo is quite interesting with the sunflower in it. Could you tell us about how that came about?
I always admired sunflowers because I guess if you have to say a flower isn't, it's kind of masculine, it's one of the more masculine flowers. And my mother used to always say whether my sister brought them home or I brought them home, she said they always made her happy. She thought they were like faces and they were uplifting to her. And I always took note of that over the years. And my mom had passed away, unfortunately. And I was at a gift show in Boston and I saw somebody had painted this great sign and it said, it had a picture of a sunflower on it. It said, face the sun and the shadows will always be behind you. And when I kind of delved into this, I don't know if anybody knows this, but sunflowers actually follow the sun during the day. So if you watched a time-lapse video of sunflowers, they will move, the whole field will turn to face the sun. So that's where they got that saying, and I thought it was really amazing. And both my mother and my father said to me, all along, you should be opening your own shop, please do it. And I wasn't ready until this time, as I said, just the doors opened. And I said, you know what, as a tribute to the two of them, I'm going to use that as my logo. And it's been, inspirational. It makes everybody happy. And I think it's pretty recognizable. And that's kind of how that came about.
That's great. What a wonderful story that is. So how do someone walks into your shop and says, I need this.
Yeah.
Are there questions you ask them about the person it's going to or about their personality? Or how do you come up with these beautiful designs?
Well, a lot of it is acknowledging what people are interested in. I try to ask people, what color you're looking for. Is there any specific, the person, sometimes people are funny. They will do something that they particularly like and they send it almost, in a representation of themselves, or they know the person that, this person likes purples, or, some people like tight and compact look, or they like more wildflower. So they will, I gather that information from people, and I've tried to teach all of the, the people that work for me to gather that same information so that it helps me to determine what I'm going to design for these people. Of course, you can always go to the website and people can choose on there. A lot of the products that are on our website are stuff that I've actually done or someone here has created. That's the thing I like about my website. I'm able to change photos whenever I want to. It's not one of these things is created by a corporation. Initially it was, but I'm able to get rid of most of those at this point. There's still a few on there, but most of them are my own creations. So that's what I like about the website. You're seeing actually things that I do, and you're not just picking something that, somebody made for a catalog. So I hope that answers your question, Jean.
It does. And a lot of times, well, most times, creators find inspiration everywhere in everyday life. They find it in wherever it is that they are. They'll see something and they'll start. The wheels will start. So how about yourself?
Oh, that happens all the time. I could be in a furniture store. I could be in any department store. Craziest places. All of a sudden I see something and I think of a design or something, and then I usually try to remember that. And sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll wake up thinking about it, which is kind of sad, but it happens quite often. But the creativity flows when it does. And, I keep to thinking about it, or, if I have a function coming up or something special or somebody that I have to meet with to talk about their, particular event, I always want to make it something unique. Elaine, I think you're familiar with some of the things I've done. She's had, we had done a piece that had to do with a real estate, and I put a house in there with a little for sale sign in front of it, and I made it look like a garden, and it was really cool, and I'll always remember that. It's something
Actually, Paul, you've done that a couple of times. I remember you put it in a window box.
Right, exactly.
You had a birdhouse in there, a little house.
Yeah.
I've used it a couple of times, and what I got it when my mother passed away. Somebody gave it to me that you did.
Oh,
Right.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
And then you've always got it. I put it out with different flowers. It's a window box, and it's got the little house.
right.
And because she was a realtor.
So that was something very special for that person, and it means a lot to them. And then somebody like Elaine can keep it, and it's a nice memory for her.
I do.
And that was kind of a unique thing. I really haven't done too many others than just for Elaine, because that was her signature, the realtor,
Paul, so the pandemic's been really hard on everybody. And how about the floral business? How did that fare?
It's been a struggle. We've had a tough time with weddings last year because most were canceled. We had about 5 that actually went through with it anyway, given the small amount of people that were there. I think most of them had like 18 maximum people or something at one point. Still, they went through with it. Most of the girls have moved to this year. It's been interesting because they're overlapping now with the people that are already been booked for this year. So it's been a bit of a struggle. I've had to turn away a few people, unfortunately, because I can only take so many weddings, and I have, weddings that are down in Newport and the Cape, and, that takes a whole day, in itself, just, traveling and setting up. And, and I'm very fortunate that I can do it. One family this is the third, they have second and third weddings in August and September. So I couldn't turn them away because I've dealt with them and I didn't want to. And unfortunately, a few other people, I had to say I can't do it, because of that. But I have been very fortunate, and I'm very thankful again that, we've been maintaining our business, and it doesn't seem to be a problem, financially, thankfully. And I feel bad for those that are struggling, but we've been very fortunate in this business. It's actually worldwide, it's increased the demand for flowers where people have not been able to actually see people. They're using flowers to keep in touch with people. And it is, flowers do really convey people's feelings. So it's an emotional, definitely flowers are emotional in many, many ways. So we look forward to a good year this year, with all the weddings coming back, and hopefully everything will open up and, continue to be on the upswing for everybody.
So I've just got one more question before I think you're going to do a little demonstration for us and
Sure.
whip up some sort of an arrangement.
Mhm.
Do you ever go into like the flower show? Have you put in installments in those kinds of places?
I actually did work with many years ago. I don't know if you remember, there was a what do they call it? Aviary, with that the bird aviary.
Yeah.
There's a man down on the Cape who actually, I've forgotten his, I cannot remember his name. It's been a few years, but they had done this amazing landscape with huge rocks, and there was water in it, and they had a bird aviary. I don't know if you remember that year at all. It was quite an amazing piece of work. So I was kind of involved with that one. More in a landscape aspect, but they asked me to help join, and I just wanted to be a part of it that year. And then I think it was either the year after that or another one they did, I don't know if you remember, they did a beach scene where it was actually they had walkways and pathways, and each one had like a setting in the sand and stuff. Do you remember that at all? And they had asked me to do an arrangement in the center of one of the tables that they had done there too. So that was really inspirational and a very enjoyable time to learn quite a multitude of things at those different times.
That sounds great. So I recommend anybody who's watching, you might want to put on speaker view right now. And Paul's going to give us a demo. He's going to put together an arrangement for us, and he'll kind of talk us through it, how you begin and all of that.
Jean, can you let Susan in again? She got bumped out. Susan.
Okay, I don't see
She's on
her.
her phone.
Okay, is she,
She texted me and asked me to text you, which I did.
yeah, she hasn't popped up though that she's trying to enter.
Okay, all right. I gave
I
the message.
will, as soon as she does.
You want me to hold tight, Gene?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to do something that's a tight and compact arrangement. That's the most popular and trendy right at the moment. Again, I'm very fortunate that I can do many different styles, and I think that's also helped me through my entire career. A lot of designers will create one certain style or their own style particularly, which is nice. There's nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately, like, trends change, and if you don't change with the times, I just think you kind of get lost and people become bored with the same thing. I'm probably sure most everybody that's here remembers, like, back in the older days, like even on weddings, like, you always held a bouquet that had a holder and it was kind of round, or a bride had a cascading form type style. And then over the years that evolved to having stems and more of a handheld thing with, without a holder, and that form took over. And it just, if you don't change with the times, I just think you lose it. So I've been very fortunate. I'm able to do the tight and compact look. I'm able to do loose and airy. I can do a lot of contemporary style, which, some people like, some people don't. It's not as traditional, obviously. But again, I just think it gives me a broad range, and I think that has been a big asset to me all through my career. So to start for you guys, I just would like to, I'm going to do it tight and compact. I'll try to go slow. I'm a pretty fast designer, so if I go too fast and you don't understand something, or you just ask me, okay? So I just took a small vase, and I'm going to start with a large flower. A large flower is usually a focal flower. Normally in designing, when you go to school, they teach you about focal flowers, and focal flowers are usually the main flower. It can be size, but it also can be color that draws you to that particularly focal flower. Smaller flowers are usually accent flowers, and then they have filler flowers, which could be like, I'm just going to say baby's breath because everybody's most familiar with that. That's like a filler flower, but there are many others. There's wax flower, hypericum, which is actually like a berry, which is St. John's wort. I'll show you some of that when I'm putting this together. But those are not focal flowers, so I don't know if that makes any sense to everybody, just so that you know what I'm talking about. So these are Gerber daisies, and they're large, and they're going to be a focal. But in this design I'm doing, Hopefully I can get to 2 of them actually, I hope you guys have enough time, and I'm pretty fast, so, but I also don't want to take over this whole thing. But I can show you the next style that I can do for you is more of a balance, and it's the original teachings. So there are multiple ways of learning design. This is called the cluster effect, where you're actually keeping the same type of flower near each other closely together. So I've just used some greens to start the base. I started with the Gerber daisies as a focal. And then I'm going to do some smaller flowers, which would be an accent flower. This is Alstroemeria or Peruvian lilies. And I'm just going to, again, I'm clustering them so everything's kind of kept together, as you can see, in a grouping. And I'm just going to do something kind of springy and colorful on this one. This is Hypericum that I was talking about, or St. John's wort. But it gives you texture. A lot of things are involving texture today too. It's not just a flower. Things like this have texture. They're not necessarily a flower per se. So again, I'm just kind of clustering and keeping all of the same flowers in the same similar area, so that I don't know if you can see how it's getting clustered. So it's kind of the Gerbers, the Hypericum, the lilies. And this is Solidago. So again, I'm just kind of clustering. If you need to turn anything, anybody just let me know, because if it's too hard to see. And I'm going to take some tulips. Just put this down for a minute. And as I said, remember I told you how long they are, so I'm not afraid. I don't want them really, really long, so I'm literally cutting like this much off for this arrangement. See how much shorter? Because they will grow, and when I'm designing an arrangement, I want to make sure that over time I think about the elements too, because if they're already, growing too long, they're going to get really lengthy, and then people aren't going to be able to enjoy the original style as much. So now I've clustered those as a grouping together. And I use a little bit more of a lemon leaf or some other filler to continue going around to fill in and support the flowers as I go around. And I'm trying to keep a mounded shape with this as best as possible. I don't know if you can see how it's starting to evolve. It has kind of a rounded effect. And then maybe we'll choose another type of filler, which is Status. And I also try to give people, when I'm making a design, I like to give them something that is, the longevity of some flowers are shorter than others, of course, like tulips. They don't last as long. So I try to keep things that, they've got a mix of things so that it lasts a long time, and they don't just say, oh God, it died in a very short time. Because if you do a lot of the same type of flower, they tend to not last as long. So I try to give a variety. Unless somebody requests something specifically, then I will put it in there. I'm doing some baby green hydrangeas, and a little bit of things about knowledge just to give you some insight. I'm sure you've all received hydrangeas, or you've even cut them from home in the garden, but you don't want, when you're cutting from home, you don't want to cut them in the heat. You always want to cut them very early in the morning or late in the evening. Hydrangeas hydrate, that's where they kind of get their name from. So you want to do it when it's cool, and you want to get them into water. A lot of times they wilt, and people complain about that a lot. First of all, I recommend you take as much of the foliage off as possible. I mean, I would take every bit off of it if possible. Reason being, if you think about it, the water is going up the stem and it's going to the leaves first, because it's not getting to the actual flower. So you want to remove that foliage from a hydrangea so that the water will go to the actual flower head. If they do start to not feel firm, which you should, I know it's hard for on a video to actually show you, but these are nice and firm. But if they start to get droopy or soft, if you see that happen immediately, a little tip to do with hydrangeas, if it happens, take them out of the vase, turn them heads upside down in the water in your sink with cool water. Leave them there for like 6 hours, 8 hours, even sometimes overnight. Make sure you put one of the florist water tubes on the end so they don't dry out. And literally 99% of the time I've been able to get them to come back. I've had people over the years bring back, wherever I've been, 5 or 10 of them, and they're like, oh, they all died. I replaced them for them, of course. But I have taken them myself, I experiment, put them in a bucket upside down in cool water, left them with the water tubes. The next day, most often, they come back. So people are amazed. I have one client who gets weekly hydrangeas for his wife, and he says, sometimes I can't understand it. Like he'll say, oh, they died the next day. One day he came back and he said they actually lasted over 3 weeks long. And he said, I just couldn't believe it. So, there's so much to it. But I always try to tell people as best I can, so that they know about these things. And if they have the time and if they care for it, they will be able to get a good longevity out of their flowers. So I don't know if you can see how I'm trying to keep this mounded. Again, I clustered the hydrangeas over here. I'm going to put a little bit more lemon. Can everybody see okay? I just want to make sure you're able to
Yep.
the whole thing. And a lot of times we use, greenery. All types of greenery is interesting because, again, it has texture and interest. And that's kind of what it's all about today. This is called sword fern that I'm adding to this. It's kind of just added to give a little design element. And sometimes you have to adjust, to pull things up again to try to keep it mounded. Sometimes they move down as you're working with things. And the peonies are absolutely beautiful that have come out just recently. Gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And a lot of flowers today are available most of the years now because, not given the pandemic, but things are grown all over the world. So we get them from China, Japan, Vietnam, Holland, Canada, California, South America. They just come from everywhere. And so we are actually, because their climates are different, we are fortunate that things are becoming even more readily available. They may be a little more expensive at times because of where they're coming from and also quality. Some countries produce things like sweet peas. I think it's China. They're just like amazing. When you see them, the quality and the, they've just grown them so specialized that it's just amazing. So I kind of added those in a little cluster, and that's kind of gave you that nice rounded, tight, compact. It has a little bit of looseness here, but it's not fully, completely solid mounded. You can do that if you like. And then what I do is just on this type of arrangement, I just take a wire and wrap it around. And it's almost like I'm doing a bridesmaid's bouquet too, because if you did this, you could just wrap it with some ribbon and you actually have a bridesmaid's bouquet. Which again, this is kind of the popular and trendy style, but I am noticing that they're getting back to more of the cascades again for brides. So the cycles are changing again, just like everything. And I'm just cutting off to match the size of this vase. And again, you want to try, and I don't want to hold you up, but I just show you, you want to get as much of the greenery off under the water because again, this is going to break down and cause the bacteria, and that will again deter from the life of the flower. So I try to get my stuff. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that, and then you just put it into the vase, and there you go. You have something.
Wow.
So it's a kind of a colorful, springy arrangement.
And what time will you be delivering that to my house?
How long will you be there, Jean? And I had a few others that we had made today, so I just thought I'd show you. This was just, I had sunflowers, Gerber daisies. This is a very popular one with the green hydrangeas and hypericum in green. A lot of things, these are hypericum that come in many different colors too.
I like how that's monochromatic.
Yes, it's very pretty, isn't it? This one I created was all red roses with white cymbidium orchids, and they had the dark throat, so they kind of tied in together with Dusty Miller. That's that. A lot of people grow this in their garden.
Yeah.
So that is just, those are kind of the tight and compact. Do we have time to do something else quickly?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Just let me know how I'm doing on time, because I have no concept of it right now.
Well, we don't either because we're so involved in watching this beauty.
Great, that's good to hear. So this one, this is going to be a little dramatic. So it's a very, very large vessel, which you probably won't be able to see, but I'm starting it out. This is another interesting one because it's kind of cool. What I utilize is a spathilium plant, so it's a live green plant, and I'm going to create an arrangement around it, and this way somebody has something to keep afterwards too. You know, after the flowers go by, they still have a keepsake. A lot of people will give these as gifts or for services, for celebration of life, so that somebody afterwards has something to keep and remember. So what I've done is I've just mounted a spathilium over the oasis, which is, the oasis is the green. I don't know if you can see it there around the bottom. That's the foam that you're probably familiar with that people make arrangements in. And I kind of pre-greened this a little bit with something just to save time for you guys so that I wasn't spending all night here. So when I was talking about balancing, I'm going to try to show you this. So if you watch what I'm doing in this particular, so the old rule of thumb, things kind of had to balance and they had a form when they were teaching you design. That has a design to it, but it's a cluster design, so it's not a formula. But these were basis of things that we learned many, many years ago, and it's still very important to learn the basics so that you can create from that, because I don't think if you have those bases, you don't have you know, the design ability to go forward. Some people can do, you know, like the loose and wild effect. It still has some design form in it, but it's more free flowing. So, you know, that has its place. And if people like it, that's fine too. I know I can certainly do that. But, you know, again, I was taught the design formula. So see how these are balancing. And then I'm going to go and continue on. And now I'm going, if you can see, this next row is a little bit lower. See how I did these up higher. So I've done one over here. And then what I want to do, I can turn this around so you can see too, but it's kind of a mirror image of itself. So when I go around, they're pretty, even though they're not on the same level, they have a balance, okay? And then I want to come along and I will add to it. What will we add? Well, might as well add some more peonies because they're beautiful. And 3s and 5s are a very popular number when designing, so remember that, and I'm sure most of you have heard that somewhere along the line. It's kind of hard to do 5 with this one because this is unique where it has the plant as the top piece. So if the plant wasn't there, the 5th element for that matching focal flower of the hydrangea would be at the top. So that would be 5, as you're most familiarly heard. And you always want to try to remember to get the flowers into the oasis very deep and down. And also when you're watering, again, it's a container like this, you got to make sure it's filled to the top. Even though the oasis is in there, it's best to still have the water filled to the top. So the oasis, even though it's above the container, the lip of the container, it still can have a tendency to dry out because of air and just dryness. And it's absorbing it, but it's not always totally, you know, wet at the top. It's pretty moist, and it still does a great job, but you got to keep things filled with water. And these are also kind of a focal. They're a smaller focal. The hydrangea is really your basic focal. But again, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of a balancing mirror image with the peonies. I'm going to add up here too, and I'm trying to carry the color throughout the arrangement. That's important when you're doing something more of this style, so that's, you know, consistent. And this is a wax flower. It looks a little bit like lilacs, but it's very durable, and it comes in different colors, lavenders, pinks, whites. And I think this is a nice complement with the peonies. This is a filler flower. And what I'm also trying to do here is let it flow over the container so it's not rigid and just, you could keep that consistency, but I'm trying to give it a little flow so it has a little bit of interest too. Hopefully everybody can see okay as it develops here. And you want to keep going around. And this is kind of just, it's a balancing thing again. We're kind of just trying to make sure that it's evenly distributed as you're designing, keeping the color and the type of flower that you're working with. And just for speed, some of this I'm not cutting, but it is best if you use something sharp and clean utensils when you're doing flower cutting. Again, it's just like us when we, if you were, trying to pull out a splinter, you wouldn't use something that was contaminated with germs, hopefully. So same thing with flowers. It's best if you have something that's clean and sharp to cut with. That's another thing that's pretty important. If you can cut, as we were talking about earlier, and you asked if we should change the water, every day. Again, it's best, but also you should cut a little bit off the stem, because just like when we get a wound, a flower tends to heal up and it stops the flow of water going up to the flower head, because it's just like us, we're being attacked on our skin. Well, their system is being attacked, so they send a lot of chemicals, or whatever, as it builds up at the bottom, and then they start to clog up. So it's another reason that flowers can have issues. We'll add another little accent flower of the Alstroemeria. And I'm trying to just keep this as kind of a monochromatic theme here.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't hurt to spritz flowers with just an atomizer too. They're like kids, they need a lot of attention.
Wow.
It's so pretty.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Might add another little greenery. This is called Trachilium. This has great texture to it. I don't know if you can see the texture in the video okay, but it has great texture to it.
Wow. So pretty.
Maybe we'll add a little something else to give it a little bit more flow. This is a different type of eucalyptus. It's called dollar eucalyptus. Looks like a silver dollars almost. And again, this gives a little flow. This is very, very popular in wedding work today. It's amazing the variety of plant material that is out there. In the old days, it was just kind of carnations and roses and daisies. Everything is expanded. But there you go. That's kind of something a little more traditional, in terms of design. Again, the balancing of the flowers. I don't know if everybody can see it okay. The whole. And again, they've got
Wow.
a nice arrangement, display, and a keepsake.
Wow.
That gives you guys a good lesson on a couple different designs. Do you have
Thank you.
any questions?
Thank you so much.
Gorgeous.
That's beautiful.
Thank
Paul.
you.
Has
Gorgeous.
anybody have any questions?
I'm back in, guys.
Yay.
Hey. Was she able to see the arrangements?
Yes. Well, I saw the second one.
Okay. Did you have any questions?
Yeah.
Ellen does.
For Elaine to ask for me, but since I got back in with some stress and sweating a lot, but
I thought I was the only one that had a sweat.
I wanted to know about roses. I usually put them in water first before I cut them and then arrange them. Is that correct? Is that the right way to do it?
Well, you're better off, again, cutting the stems. I don't know if you heard the other stuff I was saying, but you should cut them before you put them in water. Again, It depends on what's happened with them. There's so many, again, they're like kids. They need a lot of attention. So I don't know, say somebody picked them up for you and they brought them to you. First of all, if they had the water tube on them, that's a good thing. Some people don't put water tubes on them when they're going. I ask people questions all the time, and I can't tell you how many people look at me like, I just want flowers. I literally had a man 2 Christmases ago. The weather was literally, I think it was like almost 16 below outdoors, and he was getting an arrangement, and I'll get back to you. I'm not ignoring the rose part, but I get sidetracked. But I was listening, my employees were helping, and when the staff was helping him, I was listening to what was going on, and he said, well, I'll get them there. And I said to him, where are you going? He said, well, I'm not going right home. I'm just making a stop. And I said, well, where are you stopping? And he said, oh, well, just be for a minute. And I said, are you bringing these things in where you're going? No. And I said to him, well, you can't do that because it's 18 below out there. If we put you out in a plastic bag, what would happen to you in 18-degree weather? You'd be frostbitten, wouldn't you? And I really inquisitioned him, and he finally turned around and said to me, I want my money back. And I said, you know what? That's okay, because I want you to go down the street and buy something, put it in your car, go to the gym. He was going to the gym. Okay, so he wasn't going to be in there for a few minutes, and he said he was going to leave them in his car. They would have been dead. And so the thing about that I'm getting at is, so if somebody bought you flowers, whether or not they put the water tubes on them, that's important. If they took them home immediately or they went shopping, they tend to dry out. And so if they dry out and also they don't have the water tube on them, there's a chance that air gets into the actual stem because it's out in the air, okay? It's drying up. And then you put it in water, and what happens is, you can't see this, but in all the little cells, there's air formed. So now you're adding water. So there's probably an air pocket, water above it where it was already in the stem. And then the water can't get past that air pocket. So it's either stopping the water from going up the stem of the rose, or it's not going to make it. So it's better you recut it, and that frees up the space if it happened, if it dried out and wasn't in water, and then it's going to be able to flow better. You also technically should cut them underwater, so fill the sink. Right. And then cut them and then put them right into the vase, because that will avoid some of that. So it's a lot about how things have been handled and cared for, and where people. It's a lot to know about. It's amazing how much the flower industry. People don't believe it. When they come to work for me, they just think, oh, it's wrapping up flowers and it's happy and and that's it, and that's fine. But they don't realize behind the scenes how much is involved in order to make sure you guys get a good product. And that's what's important to me, is you getting a good product, or anybody else, so it's lasting, and you get your value and you get to enjoy it for a long time. So I hope I answered the whole question about the rose. Any
Yes.
flower you should cut, any of them. If it's not in a water tube or had been in water, as soon as you receive it, you should give it a little snip. It's not going to hurt at all.
Okay. All right.
And roses like warm water, and they're also funny. I don't know if you've ever read any of the cards on the back that we usually send with the care tag, but they can do the same thing when they bend over. That's partly, it could be one of those reasons about the air pocket I'm telling you about. But if it does happen, they actually tell you to lay them in your bathtub, just like the hydrangea I mentioned before, and let it soak, and it absorbs the water through the stem. So I have never actually done that, but in the industry, they talk about that a lot of the shows that I go to learn things about. So, yeah. So if you ever find your roses in the tub, somebody's trying to help you.
I have a,
Go
this is
ahead,
Helen,
Helen.
Helen Jablonski. How do you keep hydrangeas blue?
It's the
Acid.
acidity in the soil. So there are certain, if you go to your local garden center, they can get you one of the acid. It's like you can put in nails, the old-fashioned steel nails, and the whatever compound is in there goes into the bush, and that's what changes the colors of them.
Yeah, I did that and it didn't work.
Really?
Yeah, somebody said to put in vodka.
I don't know. I've never heard that, but
Drink it yourself and you'll think they're purple.
it may have something to do with just not enough of the acid,
Well,
you know.
Like I'll get a hydrangea plant for Mother's Day,
Mhm.
and then I will put it outdoors, and then another flower will start, and it doesn't stay blue.
Right. Yeah. It's something to do with the acidity in the soil. So it's either, whatever's already in there is overcompensating on whatever you're trying to put in. So it may need more of that.
So you said to put a nail in?
Well, that's what they used to say. A rusty nail will turn it
Oh,
blue.
rusty.
Right. It has to be rusty. You can't use like a galvanized steel because it's not going to do the same thing, But I mean, I've never done that. I think you're better off trying to, again, to one of the different acid that's specific for the color that you're trying to change it to.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So one quick question, since we're talking about hydrangeas.
Yes.
What makes them pink? I was given some pink hydrangeas.
Right, it's the acid again. I think it's less acid.
Oh.
Pink. Initially they start out as that anyway.
Oh,
but
okay.
They always have a tendency to change back. They just kind of morph if the acid's not in the soil right. It's amazing. You think about it, the Cape must have the right acidity because look at all the blue ones down there. Most of them are all blue, aren't they? So there's something about the acid content down there that's doing that. Again, go to the local garden center and they should direct you to the right thing to add to it to try to help. And it may take a few years, you got to remember, because if you've got soil that's so changed, it's just like your lawn, if it's not performing properly, there's probably something wrong in it, in terms of the actual makeup of the pH and all that, all the other things that create their lawn.
Paul, what is the most popular occasion or holiday for floral arrangements?
In terms of holidays, Mother's Week, which is approaching, is the biggest. I mean, everybody has a mother or some form of a mother, and if you don't recognize mom, you're in trouble. You could forget, Thanksgiving or Easter or any of the others, but that's one you have to. It's very big. Of course, always the Christmas season is very, very busy too, with all the holidays there from Thanksgiving. That's the busiest time and the biggest. For occasions, now it's everything because people, they celebrate, birthdays, anniversaries. We're always doing something with those special occasions for people. People do a lot of things with the announcement of births now. It's amazing what they're doing, for flowers and things also.
And did you see a lot during the pandemic, like appreciation bouquets going out?
Oh yeah, people were very appreciative, especially the first responders, and they were all very recognized in many different ways, and people were just wanting, anyone that was sick, they all wanted to get something to people just to give them a little lift. And flowers again have such an emotional range for people in this world. They speak volumes, and that's why I take it very seriously, because it means a lot to somebody, that people get what they're looking for, and kind of creating something that means something for them when they're giving it to a person.
Sure. Well, this has been wonderful, Paul. And if there are no more questions, we want to get to the other exciting part of this evening. So Paul is going to be making a floral arrangement for one lucky person who is here tonight with us. Now, I've got everybody's name on a spinner. Unfortunately, members of the chamber cannot participate in this
Oh,
drawing.
wow. Good.
Wait a minute,
Wonderful.
chamber members can, just not board of directors.
Oh, yes, all right, that's what I meant. Board of directors cannot.
'Cause
Ah,
maybe
So-
Jen Palmer will win.
Well, so does that mean I can be in this?
No.
Hey,
I would say board of directors, Seth, Paul, and Jean are not eligible, but everybody
Okay.
else.
all right. So let's just make sure. So a few things though. Paul cannot make this arrangement until after Mother's Day. He's just way too busy.
No problem.
He will deliver it locally, correct, Paul?
Yes. Mhm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the spinner. We'll name the whoever wins, and then you can get in touch with Paul after Mother's Day and make all the arrangements. How's that?
I'm gonna override Elaine and say that, Jean, you are eligible. You put this all together and you should be in the line.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think that's more
If
than.
you insist. All right.
I second that.
All right. So I just want to see, we have Judith, Sue O'Brien, Jen, Amelia, Nancy, Joanne, and Jean. Is that
Oh,
correct?
Helen. Don't forget Helen.
Helen's in there.
Oh.
Yep, Helen. Anybody else? Did I miss anyone? So let's just see it before I start. You everybody see it?
No.
You can't see it?
I
I'm looking
say,
Can you guys,
Now
can
looking
you
at the
see it?
is, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go.
How did you do that?
Nancy,
And it looks like
Nancy.
Nancy is the winner.
well, that's cool.
So
Do that.
Nancy,
Thank you. I'm so excited.
there you go.
I'm shouting again.
So you can
Congratulations.
give Paul a call. Paul, Nancy,
Problem?
we'll give you a call after Mother's Day.
Yeah, perfect.
That'd be great.
I had one question that I
Yeah.
couldn't get back to my computer because I'm cooking at the same time. I love that thing that you had the big pot with the plant and the
Right.
stuff on the outside. But my question is, if you want something specific, like a specific flower,
Mhm.
how much notification do you need?
Usually, I mean, unless it's something, yeah, I don't know what you heard or what you didn't hear, but most everything is available now throughout the year. Of course,
Because
if
different
it-
countries have different cycles, whatever.
because of their, the environment that they're growing them in, and they come from all over the place now. So I guess to answer your question, I mean, usually a couple days, unless it's okay. So if peonies usually fade out around September, okay. I know they're long gone here because it's hot here, but they come from Alaska. It's amazing
wow.
where they come from sometimes. They're always available, but some things you have to think about is the cost and the
Yeah.
quality. If it's something, again, like a wedding, like I just don't recommend a peony, in August, September, October.
They'll just shatter.
It's just they don't look like what I just showed you or you saw here. They're just not that quality. They can't grow them because of, again, the environment they're growing in. But they're usually available, so people that really want them will do it. But
Does the travel time degrade them a little bit? Like if they're coming from farther away or
not
no?
really, because things other than the pandemic, remember, things fly here in a day. You know what I mean? So
That's
things
true,
are
yeah.
usually here. They're refrigerated. They take pretty good care of them. Basically, and so it doesn't really have so much to do with that. It's about the conditions they're able to grow in. It's not
Right.
prime. But most everything is pretty available now. It really is. You know, again, unless it's a season that they're just not growing. You know,
Okay.
you know, it's very minimal now. It used to be, you know, like you would only get peonies in, you know, around May. You know what I mean? Basically, and that period would be it. And you don't see them anymore. But that's changed now. You know, it's so much more prevalent. They're really prevalent at Christmas time. You know, and around that time of the year. So, you know, so again,
Okay.
they're pretty much available. You know, again, it's best to give us a week notice if you can. You know, but things, you know, I can call up and get things every day. You know, or you know, every other day, and then they're here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Thank you. Congratulations.
I'm so excited.
Now, Paul, if you could just tell us again where you're
Oh, wow.
located and your phone number.
We are located on 130 King Street, Route 3A, diagonally across from the Sunrise Nursing Facility in Cohasset,
Isn't that fun?
and kind of next to Mary Lou's Coffee and between Cohasset Pizza.
The Jonathan Livingston Plaza, is it still
You got
called
it.
that?
Except now the sign's all down, I think, and they no longer say that. So he's got a big sign up there, just says 130. So I try to use that as the reference point. Yep, but that's where we are. Come visit us anytime.
Yeah.
Just come browse and enjoy the flower shop. You know, the winter is the best time because it's always spring in here. You know, and it makes people happy just to come look too. And
Paul,
you know, we're also our phone number is 781-383-2700. So it's pretty easy to remember.
wonderful. Paul,
If
thank
I'm
you.
going through Mary Lou's drive-through and I am like not lazy and I'll go in, I'll
Right.
actually pull in and come in.
And said to me earlier, I wanted to tell a quick story before people get itchy to go.
Oh, that's right about your clients.
This man came in, I don't know, a year to two, it was probably 2 years now ago, and he's funny, he said, he just came in and he said, "How you doing?" And I just, "Oh, you know, fine, you know, great day," and all. And he says, "I don't buy many flowers." He says, "But I'm always in Mary Lou's coffee line." He said, "I always look at everything you put outdoors." And he said, "I just wanted to know how you were doing. How is business?" And it was just, he blew me away that somebody would take the time. I mean, he was getting his coffee, but he came over just to find out how I was doing. And I'm like, where do you get that? Like, you just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but he just floored me because he had an interest and he was really concerned that you're doing well. And, you know, obviously knew I started up, you know, I mean, now it's been almost 7 years, but, you know, at that time, 5 years or whatever. And he just said, "I don't buy a lot of flowers, but I'll keep you in mind." And he just said, I just want to let you know, I hope you're doing well, you know, and I just thought that was the greatest thing. And that was one of my stories. The other quick one was last year, a client, I didn't know the husband, and I had never met him. His wife had been in the shop many times. Very nice people, and he blew me away last year, and I can't thank him enough.
His room.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I wasn't muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. He did this amazing thing for his wife, and it was here for her birthday 1 year ago, actually, almost this past Sunday. And he told me, I didn't really follow what he's saying, and he asked to spend this X amount of dollars for his wife. And then he said, no, increase it. And he kept going up with this figure. And I'm like, what is he doing? Like, and I couldn't follow it. And I ended up delivering the flowers. And he's like, "Paul, did you make any money on this?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He was upset with me because I didn't keep some money because he was worried I wasn't going to survive the pandemic. And he did it. And then Mother's Day came and he did it all over again. And he said, "I want you to have something to keep the business going." And I was like, oh my God, like, where do you get this? Like, he was just, I don't know. I was totally floored. I was so thankful. It was amazing. And, you know, I learned, I paid it forward, honestly, with his, you know, he doesn't know this, and I'd probably be telling too many people now, but, you know, I did pay it forward because, I'm sure there are people out there that needed it, and he really blew me away. What a nice guy. So there are great people out there, and I'm telling you, the clients I have are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Great.
Paul, I have one more question.
Yes.
On the arrangement you made,
Yes.
do you usually, I never thought of that, cluster the flowers? Because they look so pretty.
Right.
I thought you kind of spread them out, but you don't.
No, well, that's just a different style, Elaine. You know, you can, again, that was they call it the cluster effect, where you keep the flowers in similar style and color together in groupings. And yes, it's dramatic because you see all of that one flower, one color, and it makes a pretty design. So it's a little different,
Very
versus
nice,
the
yeah.
other one was more, again, it was balanced, and that's kind of the older school. It's still beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's kind of and I was just trying to get to show you how it's a little bit different. I didn't do a wildflower. I can surely do that again, but there are different forms, and contemporary is very linear usually, and very, that 3 or 5 is definitely an element in the design, and it's very different. It's just like, what do you call it? Oh God, I've forgotten the Oriental form. Just slipped my head. Anybody remember the name that they call the design for Oriental? Of course, it'll come back to me when I'm not. You guys are all gone, but that's its own design. It has certain elements about sky and earth and water, and so that actually has a very formed style about it. So there are different styles, and it all depends on what somebody's looking for.